that you're throwing onto the fire.
You know, we talked about professional football players last week, and Ruffino brought up Refrigerator Perry. Refrigerator Perry.
He played for the Chicago Bears.
Heaviest man ever to score a touchdown. Weighed 325 pounds at that time. And he was athletic, though, but he's athletically obese. Now, you said you can't be both.
Yeah, healthy obesity. It's an oxymoron. It's ridiculous. A ridiculous concept.
Although there are, okay. So
they're functional.
They're right, exactly. So, but they still have a higher predisposition to developing other diseases versus somebody who is thinner. So they can actually be far more cardiovascularly fit than somebody who's thin, hands down, Gary, like absolutely. But are they higher risk for diabetes? Absolutely. Are they at higher risk for developing certain types of cancers? Absolutely.
Are they at risk? Are they at risk of suffering low-grade systemic inflammation and
the bone broth? And he mixes it with he does the hot water, some pepper and garlic, and drinks it every morning. And he says his hair and his nails have never been better, or his skin, hair and his skin feel and look awesome.
That's
Quote.
the Jarrow bone broth. There you go. Rufino Pato is a owner of a health food store in Clarksville, Georgia. Big fan of your products, by the way. He sells them in your store, in case you didn't know. When we come back, we're going to talk about this. What is even being overweight and running low-grade systemic inflammation? You talk about a smoldering fire. It may not burn the house down all at once, but eventually the house will burn down. And that's what low-grade systemic inflammation is, analogically or metaphorically. Sooner or later, just a matter of time. Come back after the top of the hour. We'll be here, LTN, coast to coast and globally. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for stopping by today. We appreciate it. Dominic Ostrander is my guest today with Jarrow Formulas educator. And that company has been at the forefront of dietary supplement or the natural products industry for decades. Jarrow Rogovan, who, started the company and operates the company even to this day, is a very passionate man and is, they have an agenda there and a point of view. And they have led the way in many ways in dietary supplementation, not only in formulation, but in legislation. And he's very much involved in the politics of nutrition and the industry and advocates for the consumer. And I know him. Dominique knows him much better than I. I've only had occasion to speak with him, a few times, a dozen times or more. Been on my show, and very passionate guy. I don't always agree with him, but nobody's going to fault that man for his commitment to the industry, to the consumer, to the formulation, to the making, the manufacturing and formulation and manufacturing and selling of dietary supplements. The company, their products are just top notch. They're one of the leading companies in the world, no doubt. And I share that with you so you need to, at least from this, I'm only a sample of one, but nevertheless, I've been doing this a long time, and not all these companies are the same. That's almost cliche to say anymore. Jarrow Formulas stands apart. It's one of the, they always make it to the playoffs. They're like one of those teams, they're always in the playoffs. They're always there. And if you're watching the show, Gary is streaming their website, and you can just see the Jarrow-Dophilus, B12 and methylfolate, the bone broth. I'm watching the carousel that they have. B Infants M63, formulated for infant health. The 6 plant proteins that they have. I'm reading off the True Probiotic for Women. And then it starts over again. And it goes on and on and on. Now, the question becomes, does dietary supplementation have any relationship or role to play in this obesity epidemic? That's the question. Some would say, they would say no. Be very candid. They would say no. It has nothing to do with it. It's not going to help. It won't make any contribution at all, because supplements have nothing to do with people being obese. Maybe I'm not being fair to that argument, but that's essentially what it is. And that you're wasting your time and your money. I vehemently disagree. I'll be anxious to see what Ms. Ostrander says about that. I can tell you that one of the consequences of being overweight and obese is that this is not fiction. This is a fact. There are many consequences, but one for sure, and it's almost axiomatic. If you're overweight or obese for sure, morbidly obese, it's 100% certainty that you are running inflammation levels that are off the chain with obesity and morbidly obese people. Off the chain. Overweight, even low-grade systemic inflammation is in play. It's axiomatic. And you're saying, so what? Well, it's not so what. That inflammation, ironically, is there to help you, but being obese is like leaving the switch, and being overweight is like leaving the switch on for your immune system to keep sending those molecules, those cells and molecules throughout your body that inspire inflammation. It's a switch, and it's on. And eventually, like I told you, it may be low-grade, a smoldering fire, low-grade, little campfire, just smoldering. What can happen eventually? That little smoldering campfire can set the whole forest on fire eventually and burn, and be a disaster. It's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. And if I sign hyperbolic, then I'm just trying to make a point. Obesity is not an aesthetic problem, although it can be. Psychological, emotional issues associated with it are manifold as well. But it is a metabolic problem of what? Cosmic proportions. It is. And it has the planet upside down. And many tens of millions of people on fire, literally within. Here's how you can connect to participate in the conversation. I invite you to do it. I always love to hear from you.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko at letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us, and share us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, on Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Let's Talk Nutrition, where everything is archived by date. It's closed caption for the hearing impaired. We have over 59,000 views now. And I have an internet question that came in.
Yep, go ahead.
Mary from Oldsmore writes, can people have many strokes and not know about it?
The aforementioned Dominique Ostrander is my guest. Miss Ostrander, welcome to the show. You can. I'll give you an opportunity to answer that question. Do you have any comment relative to my opening monologue?
I have several. Yes. I definitely think that if there's obesity and inflammation are connected, and we definitely have to try and help those that are suffering, because chances are, I mean, in all the years that I did cardiac rehabilitation, there has never been an exception where the person didn't have inflammation of some kind or another, showing up in some way, in some form. So I've never seen it. I mean, I guess there could be an anomaly out there. If somebody's listening and they're obese and they have absolutely, no inflammation, all inflammatory markers are the same, they're not symptomatic of any inflammation, I'd love to talk to them.
I would alert the media, because that person needs to be put.
Right, exactly.
They need to be put in a museum.
Right. Yeah. For
all time. Yeah. Do you think you've heard that argument about, first of all, the argument that supplements are a waste of time. Secondly, that taking supplements and trying and making some contribution to people that are overweight or obese is meaningless. Your response to that?
I don't agree. I think that's ridiculous. I think that it can definitely have a positive effect. Can it offset bad eating? We've said that a million times. No. You can't take supplements and then, eat like crap. You can't. But hopefully, with a mindset that's wanting to take supplements, you're spending money on supplements that also is in conjunction with making better choices. So,
and not only that,
I think
I was going to say, we're headed in some messages, then you can also answer that question when we come back, if you could, please. That inflammation, there is much a person can do from a dietary supplement point of view about inflammation, right?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll get into that as well. So even if you're not overweight or obese, there's a piece of this conversation that would be relevant and informative and important to you, and that would be the inflammation part for sure. And then we'll answer that question about having multiple strokes and not know it, and what would that be called? Let's Talk Nutrition, coast to coast and globally. to Let's Talk Nutrition, wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show, and whatever you may be doing. Oh, we had a question about, I'll let Gary from, was it Mary from Oldsmar?
Mary from Oldsmar asked about mini strokes.
Mini or many?
Mini, M-I-N-I, strokes, and not know it. And they're called silent strokes, maybe? And they're not easy to recognize in symptoms.
Somebody I know just had this issue. Let's go back to our guest, So Strander. Have you come across this in your when you were in clinical work?
I have, definitely. And yes, it's very possible to have many strokes and not know. Eventually, you know. But it is something that if you're suspecting, or let's say you're like it's a spouse and you're suspecting that they're having mini strokes, then I would suggest you see your doctor for sure. But it is possible. Silent strokes, ghost strokes, there's different things that they call them.
They're called TIAs, right? Transient ischemic attack. It's a mini stroke. It occurs.
Right, but
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
I said it occurs when part of the brain experiences a temporary lack of blood flow. I mean, there are two major kinds of strokes, but no matter what stroke is where blood flow to the brain is temporarily impeded here. This causes stroke-like symptoms that resolve within 24 hours with these mini strokes, right?
They can for sure, and that's why they go unrecognized, because the symptoms they're not necessarily lingering.
They're not, yeah, and they don't initially cause permanent disability either.
Mm-hmm. But is it Mary?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. If Mary is suspecting that, she should definitely go to her physician.
Yeah, either if it's for her. Some of the symptoms of a stroke, you'll have this sudden sense of weakness. There'll be a sudden sense of confusion sometimes. There can be a sudden change in a person's vision. They might experience a sudden change in their ability to balance themselves. It could be a sudden headache that they would have. Those are some classic, even with mini strokes, there's, something just happened, but you're not quite sure. Good friend of mine was just talking to me about this. So it's interesting that she brings up, they're called transient ischemic attack, TIA. 877-897-8255. I hope we answered. What was her question, though, Gary?
That was it. Just maybe some symptoms and signs of the mini stroke, and if it really happens.
It does happen. And, one of the risk factors is cardiovascular disease. Arteries being blocked, right? You got two carotid arteries that go up into your brain to provide blood supply to your brain. And the brain loves glucose and it loves oxygen. It needs those two things to work, man. And if you can't get those elements into the brain, you're in a lot of trouble. Dominique, I was rude. How are you doing?
You're never rude.
Oh, sometimes
good.
I get caught up
good.
in stuff and I'm not polite enough. I didn't ask you how you were.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. As far as I can tell, just have to keep things in perspective,
Don't we all?
I get caught up in my stuff and my work, and I'm so achievement driven and oriented. This is the truth. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I never worried about making money. Never. I'm always been, and even to this day, it's about achievement. I never worried about the money. I'm process driven. Want to achieve, want to learn, want to do better. To me, that contributes to my better mental health and my health overall. As long as I can do that, I feel better. That's my answer to your question. As long as I have the ability to achieve and have a sense of achievement in life, I'm good. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
I
that
completely understand that.
you dig that? You understand that?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
Some people say
Definitely.
they say, "Oh, say what?" But Doc, you got to make money. I said, "I know. I make enough money. I'm doing okay. I mean, I never worried about it. I swear to you, I never really worried about it. I just
I
went.
wonder if somebody would feel that way if they were just making, boatloads of money but never had a sense of achievement.
There are people like that.
If they're okay with that. I know.
I know people like that.
Yes, we do.
But that is, I guess, for some people, that is an achievement, right? I guess that's what some people
Well,
would say.
they use